Hi, my name is Elena. I am a marketing lead here at Churchill. I have been working here for almost a year, and it's been a great experience working here with Jayne. So, our CEO, she can introduce herself.
Thank you, Elena. Yes, I'm the CEO of Churchill Leadership Group. I'm also an executive coach with multiple specialties, and Churchill Leadership Group was founded almost 9 years ago now to really enable talent to thrive in global corporations and government agencies. So we have over 200 executive coaches who also play the role of consulting, facilitating, and training at times, who work with our clients in partnership around the globe to deliver organizational development, leadership development, and team performance solutions. So we work in APAC, EMEA, Latin America, and North America. And delighted, Elena, you're part of our team.
Yeah, awesome. I'm happy to be a part of the team. So today for this interview, we're going to talk about, with the shift of going to virtual work, it's becoming more important that leaders are able to create a really empowering and high trust culture versus command and control. So for those people that are not maybe familiar with command and control leadership style, could you explain a little bit about what that is, how it works?
Absolutely. I think an easy way for people to think of command and control style of leadership the military might come to mind, where you have a general and all the different levels below the general in the military, where the general gives commands, they give the orders, and people follow. There is hierarchy roles that are very clear and hierarchy responsibilities. And so a command and control culture and style tends to show up in corporate or businesses as the leader tells us what to do. The leader might tell us how to do it. We go to the leader for information. We go to the leader to make decisions, and we follow that direction. So I don't think anyone is totally command and control in terms of their style, but cultures and individual leaders um, can tend to have more of a command and control approach. And so I think what we've been talking about and thinking about a lot is, how does that work in general in terms of effectiveness for employees and an organization's performance? And now we're in this corona crisis situation, challenge situation. How does that work when teams have to work remotely?
Yeah,
Is that fairly clear, Elena? Would you like me to go deeper on any of that?
yeah, no, I think that's good. I don't know why my my sound just started coming out of my computer again, right? Like you finished talking and now it just started, I don't know what's wrong. So
L- Loose cable, I think.
but no, yeah, I think that's a good answer. And one of the things that I was going to say in response to that is that I think it's important for people to know that there's never a one size fits all for any situation. And especially when exploring the unknown, or when dealing with the unknown, I guess we would say that, you should, kind of see what works best for you and your team,
Mhm.
and exploring a lot of different options, but also knowing that just because one idea or one option is presented, it's good to try everything, but that the same thing isn't going to work for everyone. So I think it's important, like you said, to
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think what we're talking about in this space is situational leadership. And great leaders can adapt and pivot based on what the situation needs. And
Mhm.
so one type of style would be a more directive style. And areas where it works well can be in that initial crisis. Something has happened that we didn't expect. What do we do right now? And that
Mhm.
might be where a leader has to stand, take the lead, make a difference in that moment and give people direction. But to use it consistently, particularly once a change has sort of been figured out, we're now working from home, we're seeing this for the near future, this is how we're going to operate, then a command and control, a more directive style doesn't work as well. Um, yeah, and coaching and empowerment is another type of style.
Mhm. Awesome. Okay. I'm just going to take these out because it's just okay. All right. So next thing. So I can see how the command and control leadership might be limiting or even detrimental to transformational change management, which is what so many companies and businesses are finding themselves in right now as they're shifting to remote or virtual work teams in light of coronavirus. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yes, I think change is consistent. I think we all know that. Transformation is often something that organizations are trying to do. They might want to transform into more of an innovative culture. They might want to transform to working in different ways. And so I think this transformational change has been forced on us because of the situation that we're all in globally. And one of those clear changes that we're dealing with right now are leaders and their teams working from home who wouldn't normally work from home. So, what does that look like if a leader or culture is more command and control? So, I mean, rarely is a command and control leader in a culture of a company where it's more empowering and coaching. It's usually, if we have command and control leadership, the general culture of the organization is more like that. Um, and if you're existing in more of a command and control culture, and that's your style as a leader, and now you've had to shift to your team working remotely versus them being on your doorstep, think about some of the things I said earlier. You might become even more directive because you can't see them at work and you want to make sure they're doing what you need them to do. So you might be giving more orders or giving more direction or telling them more what to do. You might feel the need to check on them more because you can't see them doing the work like you might in the office or be in live meetings where you're seeing the work happen. So it might risk you being more of managing. And many a times in programs I've asked people who loves a micromanager and no one puts their hand up. Then I ask, well, who here's micromanaging, and no one puts their hand up. So I don't know who's doing the micromanaging, but it does go on, and it's a risk if you're more of a command and control style now that your people aren't in front of you. Some of the other things are if your people are reliant on you to give them the answers or for you to make decisions, you're not as available because you're working from home. So now you become a roadblock to the pace of your business and things slow down and you aren't as productive. So, I mean, this is some of the shift that we might be experiencing if you have a command and control, more directive culture or leadership style. Does that answer your question, Elena? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I think, like you said, people might start micromanaging more where in there's space, so that they can, make sure that they are, on top of what their employees are doing. And like you said, a lot of people will say, no, I'm not a micromanager. No, I don't like to be micromanaged. But I think a lot of times people probably don't realize it, or they don't see their actions as being a micromanager because they might just think, well, I just want to make sure my team and my employees are getting the job done and doing it well. And while that might be true, people have to sort of be reflective when they're in a different workspace and thinking about how they're approaching situations differently now given the circumstances. So I can definitely see that being an issue, and
Yeah.
you know people needing to kind of reflect about what they're doing.
And then I'll throw in a little tip there because you speak to that beautifully, that someone's intent might be good. They want to make sure that me and my team are delivering through this difficult situation. So the intent might be a good one, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to deliver good results, but the impact might not be a good one. And I
Mm-hmm.
may not realize I'm micromanaging by checking on you all of the time. Have you got this done? Have you done that? Etc. Where you might be working really hard from home, you might have to be more flexible because maybe you have your children at home or your husband or spouse is working from home at the same time. And so you might have to keep moving around. You might not have two offices, for example. And so you need more flexibility, but you're confident you're going to get the stuff done. But here's your manager now panicking because you haven't got it done by a certain time and you feel you're being micromanaged. And so that is decreasing trust, decreasing the productivity of the working relationship, and no one wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely have to be careful and watch out for things like that. So moving on here, how do you think a leader begins to shift to a more people-centric or innovation-centric culture that empowers their employees and teams?
Yeah, that's the shift is important, right? Change is hard. Change is really hard. And I'm a certified change management coach. So I've seen the research and I work with people on leading successful, trying to lead successful change. So it is hard. It is hard for a single leader to make a shift from more of a directive command and control leadership style to empowerment and coaching without help. It's really hard for an individual leader to do it if everyone else is going to stick with the more directive approach. So I think the shift has to happen at an organizational level, and that might be the business leaders, the CEOs, the COO, the CFO realize that our culture as it used to be isn't working for us anymore. We need to shift our culture. We need to determine that different leadership skills are needed versus the ones we used to have. We have different expectations, particularly if some of our people are going to continue to work from home or our business changes because of Corona. Or maybe you're head of HR and you're responding to employees' needs and realize your employees need more support in some ways, but it's not direction. It might be more feedback. It might be more of a community, right? If we think about how social media has evolved. It's evolved not because Facebook or LinkedIn have said it's got to evolve. It's evolved because of what people want and how they use it. And what we see is people want to build a community and hear from each other, not just from your boss, right? And so I think one of the things that we're hearing from clients is the need to build communities when people work from home, so that if I'm a member of a team, I've got clarity of what's expected in terms of what I need to deliver and by when from my manager. My manager gives me ongoing coaching and feedback and support, but I also want to be able to operate in an environment where they're not looking over my shoulder every minute, but I do have a community that I can work with and go to. So I think the shift has to happen at an organizational level. And I think head of HR or the business leaders have to recognize that the shift is needed, and that might be feedback from employees or what's working, it's just not working for us the way it is. And they need to either know how to make that shift, or they can work with an organization like Churchill Leadership Group, and we help companies make that shift all of the time. And so I think to know how to make that shift, there are a couple of things that need to happen. We have to really identify, what does it look like today? And what do we want it to look like in the future? So it might be a leader today gives direction and tells their people what to do. A leader in the future is skilled and has learned how to coach, to empower, and give meaningful feedback. A leader today just focuses on their team. A leader in the future knows how to build a community across the business that empowers them and their teams. And then you need to put in place a learning journey that teaches people how to do that, and a learning journey where they can practice doing that and make progress, a blended learning journey. Does that help?
Yeah, definitely. So, kind of talking about how you think the change needs to happen from an organizational level and individuals in the C-suite sort of being the ones to spearhead this change. So what advice, I guess, or what would you say to, an individual or maybe a few employees that feel like their top leadership isn't, taking that step towards change or isn't identifying or recognizing that some type of change needs to happen? So what would some of those people at the lower end do in the case that they feel like they need something?
Yeah. So what we've seen in the last month or so is some of our clients, some of our big clients, do an extra sort of an employee survey to get a feel of what do our employees need now and what do they need in the longer term, like, over the next few months. So what we found was what employees were saying up front, and what the research also tells us, is in times of crisis, people need stability. They need compassion. They need their boss to understand what I need right now, what I'm going through at home. I don't normally work from home, and my spouse is working from home. My kids are at home. I'm having to take care of a family member as well. Compassion of what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
They need trust in the relationship.
Mhm.
between boss and employee and across our team and organization. And we need hope of the future so we can sort of work towards something. So I think by answering these surveys, employees have shared what they need. And I'd encourage employees to continue to do that. If you don't have a more formal way of sharing what you need and the change you want to see, then look for the communities that exist or create communities. Talk to your team. You don't have to have the title of boss, manager, leader to make a change. So if I was on a team and there wasn't a formal way for me to request change, I might suggest it to the team and my boss. It's, hey, can we talk about what a future might look like for our team and what we need to thrive in the future? And that doesn't mean you have to have all the answers. You just need to get people together to, in a trust safe environment, to open up about some of the things they think would work for the team in the future and make sure that is communicated beyond your team to higher levels. So those are just some examples.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's great, especially what you said about, finding ways to, leverage your resources and other individuals that feel the same way as you. So you don't feel alone and you feel like
Yeah,
you have other people that can help and you can go to. And I think that's always important.
yeah.
Okay. So with organizations shifting to virtual and remote teams as they adapt to the world's current state of uncertainty, there's a lot of fear and anxiety built into that change. There's also a lot of room for opportunity to explore a culture of empowerment and leave the command and control behind. So what does a high trust work culture look like for a virtual remote team, and what is the potential of that?
Yes, I'm actually going through another team coaching certification right now. I've done several in the past. And yet again, we hear as we go through this learning ourselves, me learning is the critical importance of trust. And you can apply that thinking to anything, any relationship that you're in, at home, at work, with family, and definitely trust between you as an employee and your boss, boss to employee, and across your team and across your organization. Trust is it's a game changer. And in a command and control culture, trust tends to be lower. An empowerment coaching culture, it tends to be higher. Coaching needs trust, and coaching done well can build trust. So, trust is a critical success factor to teams and relationships. And a culture really is the result of the quality of the relationships that exist in that organization. And the quality of the relationships that exist in the organization is dependent on the quality of the conversations that happen. And if I don't trust you, I'm going to hold back in those conversations. I'm not going to open up because I fear you would judge me. You may hold it against me. You might shut me down. And so we want high trust to have better conversations, more productive conversations, more innovation conversations, and that will build better relationships and a better culture. So I think building trust during this time, there's a huge opportunity. So shall I share a few ways that maybe leaders and teams can build trust through Corona? Would that help?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so there are, like well, I am a leader leading a team through Corona, and our team is always working remotely. But I've ramped up us doing more exercises that build trust. And there are hundreds of exercises out there that you could use to build trust. And you have just Google them. Trust building exercises you can do by Zoom. Trust building exercises you can do remotely, and they don't have to be complex. A lot of it is about understanding each other, understanding what each other needs to thrive, how best to work with me. So, one of the exercises you could do, and you could do this if you're a leader one on one with each person, you could do it as a team together on during a meeting, and that is to be curious about each other. So, let me give you an example. Let's say, Elena, I'm your boss on a team, and I set up 20 minutes and I call it trust building exercise, being curious about each other. And I say, Elena, let's just try something. I've done it in the past. It's worked really well. It's enjoyable, I hope. And it helps us learn about each other and how better to work together. And it's going to take 20 minutes. I'm going to set a timer. In the first 10 minutes, I'll role model. I'll ask you questions about you. And at 10 minutes, we will switch.
Mhm.
And the type of questions I might ask you might be stuff I don't know about you, questions for which I have no answers. So I might say to you, Elena, why do you choose to stay on this team?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm silent and let you talk. Elena, what does success look like for you at the end of the year in your life? That's going to tell me so much about you.
Mm-hmm.
Elena, what book are you reading right now? Why did you choose it and what are you getting from it? I might say, Elena, have you been through a crisis like Corona before? What did you learn from that previous crisis and how can it help you as we go through this together? So,
Mm-hmm.
really, no right question, but notice the questions I'm asking are open questions. You can't answer yes or no. Notice they're questions that I don't already have the answers to. Notice they're questions where there's no right or wrong answer, so I'm not putting you on the spot. It's
Mm-hmm.
helping me connect to you, to
Mm-hmm.
learn more about you. And then I'm open for the next 10 minutes, and you can ask me anything that you want as long as we keep the questions respectful, and it can be fun.
Yeah, no, those are all great. And another thing that comes to mind for me hearing you talk about those is, I think even outside of work that those could be, great exercises or things to, participate in with your, personal relationships, family,
Yeah,
friends, people that, we all have friends or acquaintances or people that we frequently interact with because we just simply see them every day.
yeah.
So relationships that it might be hard to maintain when you're, also out of work and out of your daily routine, it's important to, maintain all of those other relationships and try to stay connected and to those people. And I think this is a great thing that you can do for that as well.
Absolutely. And sometimes if you're asking these, um, I would say powerful questions because of the thinking the other person has to do, and because it puts a lot of new information on the table, valuable information.
Mhm.
Sometimes maybe your employee, especially the employee, might struggle to answer, and that might speak to the lower trust in your relationship. They're worried about opening up too much for you. And that's why I always suggest the leader goes first.
Mhm.
Um, uh, and by that I mean it could be that your employee gets to ask the questions first. So you can
Mhm.
do it either way. I go first by asking the questions to role model what I mean by asking questions. But if you have a low trust relationship, you might want to reverse it. Ask
Mhm.
the employee, give them time in advance to think of some questions,
Mhm.
and let them go first, and you open up and be a bit more vulnerable first. Like you go first and open up. So
Mhm.
depending on the situation and the relationship you have, um, depend what works best. The good thing is the more you do it, the better you get at it. And
Mhm.
the other key point is whatever you learn about the other person, write it down. See how you can use that to help the relationship moving forward. Like if
Mhm.
I find out something about you that's really important for success for you, I'm going to bring that into our conversations in the future because I know it's important to you. So
Mhm.
make sure you don't forget what they've told you.
Mhm. And then that way, speaking to trust, that sets the stage to build more trust in the future. If you are showing them you're being intent and you're listening with intent to what they're saying, you're writing it down and then you're following up, so it's gonna also create that bond by
Yeah.
taking those steps in the beginning to just keep building towards the
Yeah.
positive direction.
I respect that you took the time to share with me, and that was important. And I really listened, and
Mm-hmm.
I really took it on board, and I know it's important to you. So
Great.
yeah, it's active listening. Yeah.
All right, next question here. So can you give 2 or 3 top tips to any of our leaders that are watching or listening that they can start using today that'll help build trust with their new virtual teams? And what steps can they take to make that a smooth transition?
Yeah, good question. I think the first tip I would give is do what we've just talked about, trust exercises, and
Mhm.
I would um, start to collect almost like a library of 5 to 10 of them. You could see how easy that was, the one I just shared. Another quick example is ask everyone to choose an artifact from their home life and bring it and talk about it and why it's important to them. um, it can be anything. It can be a sports t-shirt. It can be a picture their kid has painted. It can be a memento from a grandparent, and something that they get to choose, that they share with the team, that shares a little about them and what's important and maybe their history. So there's
Mhm.
another quick exercise where there's very little preparation. Just give people a day's notice. They can think of something they really want to share, and then everyone just takes turn. And again, the leader can go first, the leader can go last or in the mix. So again, build trust, find ways to proactively increase the speed of trust on your team. And remember, it's not just trust between you and individuals, it's trust across the team. It's with peers, because in a truly empowered culture and environment, there's high peer accountability. They're not going to you for answers. They're not going to you to hold them accountable. They're going to each other. So building trust across the team helps transition to more of an empowering community environment. So another thing I think people can do, particularly during Corona, is use video. So we know a lot of people are using Zoom, and I've kept a close eye on Zoom. We've always used it, and I'm confident between all the things Zoom have put in place, it's a very, very secure way to work with your team. And by using Zoom, you get to practice active listening. So active listening is one of the coaching skills when we teach leaders at Churchill Leadership Group how to coach. And active listening using Zoom helps you because you've got the actual video, so you can pick up more than just what a team member says. You can pick up on visual clues, body language, expressions, whether they are distracted, whether they are about to say something but are holding back, and you have an opportunity to say, please, I'd love to hear what's on your mind. You can't see that on the telephone. So active listening is different to just regular listening in that it's hard work. You've got to give yourself 100%. No distractions, no phone, no background noise, no multitasking, no email open. You've got to give yourself 100% to the person in front of you. You've got to not interrupt them, let them really finish what they're saying. You want to avoid judgment in then having an opinion on what they said, whether it's right or wrong, but just stay curious, double click to get clarity. You might have shared something with me, Elena, and I'm like, I'd love to know more, but I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm going to let you finish because that might give me more. And even at the end, I might say, so tell me more about this, or why is that important to you? And what does that mean for you when you're at work? And what do you need from me? Like, I might want to go deeper. So active listening shows that I care about what you say. I care why it's important to you. I've really listened without judgment. I might mirror to show that I'm listening to you. So I might take a few keywords that you've said and use those to share back. I think this is what I've heard. I think this is what it means we do moving forward, but I'm going to check in to confirm that I heard you correctly. And by using some of your words, I might use mirroring techniques. So there's some examples of active listening, and it's important because it says, you're really important to me. What you say is important in our relationship, and I'm going to use what we've discussed to take action to empower and help you moving forward. Does that help a little, do you think, for leaders that are listening?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And, to what you just said about, making sure you don't interrupt people and you fully hear to what they have to say, because you might get your answer or your question answered in the meantime, or you might, get more information. I actually personally didn't realize that I struggled with this problem. I, got feedback from one of my supervisors a couple years ago, and she said to me, she said, I can tell that you ask questions because you want to know more, you want to understand what the person's saying. And she said, but she said, you have to stop interrupting people. She said, when they talk, let them finish and then ask your question. And it's kind of hard to hear at first, because I didn't realize that people might be distracted, or it might be disrespectful. And she said, I can tell that it's because you want to learn and know more, but wait. And that's one of the best pieces of feedback I've ever received, because I didn't realize how much I did it until the next time it happened. And I said, oh, but wait. And then I said, no, don't say anything. Wait till they're done and then ask. Because,
Yeah.
even though, like we talked about before, the intent, what's the intent? the intent was good because I am listening and I want to make sure I'm getting the big picture, but the impact might be negative for that other person. So again, you might not realize that you do things that might be hard for other people. So always just being aware of how you're communicating and how you can enhance the way that you communicate. So
Elena, thank you. Thank you. Did you find sometimes that when you do let people continue to talk, some of your curiosity is answered?
yeah, definitely sometimes I think the way that my brain is I shift kind of between big picture and little details. So sometimes I'm honed in on the big picture and sometimes I'm honed in on the details. I think it's more when I'm being talked to or told about something that I am not familiar with, I'll ask a lot of detailed questions. So I think that's kind of where that urge comes in. It definitely always helps to hear
Yeah.
the rest of what they say, but I usually, you know, still want to know more. But
And thank you again for connecting it to intent versus impact. That is such a, like in some of my certifications that I've been through over the years, conversational intelligence, we use that intent versus impact. But I also learned it many years ago from my years of yoga practice and using the third eye of recognizing in the moment what's going on, what's my intent, but what's the impact I'm having? My intent is good, but the impact I'm having is not so good. And so being really present in the moment and recognizing that is key. And so thank you for tying it back to that, because that's a tip leaders can use at all point. What is my intent here? What is the impact I want to have? And you can use that to prepare before you have a conversation. And you can also use it after the conversation is finished. What was my intent, but what was the actual impact I had? So it's a great measuring tool that's simple to use. I'm also going to add two other quick tips on this initial question of what can leaders do to empower more during Corona. Um, Often assuming that we are working remotely. The first is what great leaders do: focus on the outcomes. Make sure that your team and team members are focused on the result that we need to deliver and why that's important. Give a strong sense of purpose. Describe what success looks like. Well, how would we measure it? How would we know with how we're going to measure it what success looks like versus we're halfway there? Great leaders focus on outcomes, and then they give their people the space to do it, achieve that in a way that works for that person. Because you're not me, and I might achieve that same outcome in a very different way to you. So forcing my way on you probably won't work. And so focus on the outcome and give people the space, support them with feedback and coaching along the way. And that is easier said than done, but if you can try to practice some of that, if you want to know more, we do the Leader as Great Coach program and we'll teach you how to do that in depth. The second piece is, and I've lost my train of thought. There was something you said, I remember thinking, oh, I need to mention that, and I've completely forgotten, but I'm sure it'll come back to me. So let's move on to the next question.
okay, we just have one more before we wrap things up. So Churchill is deeply connected in providing the right resources and solutions for virtual teams right now. Can you tell us about some programs Churchill's offering to help organizations, leaders, and teams make virtual the new normal?
Yes, and I want to give a call out to our global coaches for this, because for Q2 of 2020, we were going to focus very much on providing resources and webinars and education around executive coaching to our audience, to our prospects and our clients. And there was so much to that. We do executive coaching a lot. We offer an executive coaching managed service where we provide coaches around the globe for organizations as they need it. We help them do it strategically and measure success. And then we had to pivot, right? Because things changed and our audience needed something different. And the pivot happened so quickly with our coaches that I'm really proud of them, and that's why I want to call that out. And we pivoted on really one key thing is, what do our clients and audience need right now, just in time right now? And really there were a couple of things. One is that shift from being in the office to everyone working from home. Now, often our teams are global, so we're all working in the office, but a manager, and some people might be in Omaha, the rest might be in New York, others might be working from home. But the shift was everyone now works from home, which was quite a shift for most teams. And then the whole organization is doing it, right? My HR partner's working from home. How do I get hold of them? My boss's boss is working from home. My customers are working from home. So total shift. So one of the programs we put together, and one of our great coaches, Kerry Lynn, is how to lead a remote team. And there's lots to that. We do a free version of that, which is available on our website at churchillleadershipgroup.com. And you'll see there's a COVID-19 button at the top. There's a free webinar to learn how to do that. Then if you and your team want to do that deeper, or your department or your organization wants to learn how to do that, there are much deeper, extensive versions of that, all delivered by Zoom through experiential learning. The second one is, how do I need to change my leadership approach in this situation? We started off this call talking about situational leadership. I am now leading through a crisis, high stress, high worry situation where a lot of change is happening. And so leaders want to switch from wherever they were doing to leadership where they give stability, they give compassion, they build trust, and they give hope. And so again, that's a series of webinars that we offer where we can go deep and tailor it to your organization. And we also have a free 1-hour version. So sign up, learn from it. There's a lot of great content, a lot of interaction with the audience, benefit from it. The third one is giving leaders, and this is probably more senior leaders, what they need right now. Maybe a leader's never led in crisis. Maybe you've got leaders in your organization that just need one coaching session, or a series of 4 coaching sessions over a couple of weeks to do something new and do it really well. So what we've done is just-in-time coaching, and that comes in two forms: power coaching, where a leader gets coaching over 3 to 4 sessions, however they want it, and then a coach's corner where a coach is available for a whole day or every morning at certain times, and any of your people can sign up and have a coaching session. And these coaching sessions are a safe place, high psychological safety, where it's confidential and helps the leader work through what they need to, so they come out the other end having clear, identified what they need to do, how they need to do it. They've got a plan, they're confident, and they're off. All of that's on the website under the COVID, on the COVID page.
Okay, awesome. Did you remember the last point you were going to make before?
Nope. Sorry, my brain's too old. I'm
Okay.
sure it'll come to me when we finish. I'm curious, Elena, I mean, you've lived through Corona like all of us so far. Is there anything that you've learned that you need, or what you need to lead? Anything you would like to share with the audience?
One thing that I have discovered that's definitely helped me just be, more productive and present, I guess, at work, is to make a schedule for myself. So, or a routine, I guess, is a better word. So the first kind of week, it was, oh, I have all this time and there's nowhere to go. So, you just kind of, it's easy to get a little bit lazy. And I would say after about a week and a half, I was like, okay, I can't keep, moping around this much. I need to get myself into a routine. So, I feel like I'm still somewhat kind of, I guess, living life as I was before, if you will. So, I started waking up and working out before I would start work. And it really does just make me feel more energized because
Yeah.
was able to clear my brain in the morning and do something for myself before literally just sitting here all day. So I think that is different for everyone. Maybe reading a book or journaling or, reflecting, drawing. I think it's helpful for everyone to find something that kind of lets them chill out in the morning before they start their work. So that's really helped me a lot. And I've felt, like I can be more productive and have a clear mind starting my day and, knowing that I did something right for myself in the morning. So that's definitely helped since I started doing that. It has helped a lot and I've definitely noticed a difference. So if I had to give one recommendation to, the general people that can work for anyone, that would be it.
Thank you so much. And what I also heard in that, a theme of wellness, like personal wellness, personal resilience. And so that's a good reminder. It wasn't the thing I forgot, but it is something else you've reminded me about. And that is, we have 2 webinars. Again, they're complimentary, coming up over the next few weeks. One is Wellness with Mindfulness, which one of our amazing coach, Laurie, is going to be doing that. And then we have another one coming up. We don't have the date, I don't think, scheduled yet. And that is Wellness through Resilience. And resilience means different things for different people. I've been through a lot of resilience training myself with the change management, and I think there are many ways that people can learn how to become more resilient. It's not like one size fits all, but there are many best practices. And I think if people out there want to feel stronger, mentally, and know ways, routines, disciplines to be stronger, then they feel so much better for it. And to your point, you can be more productive. So it helps the individual, but it also helps the organization, because if I feel better and stronger and more resilient, I can do better work. So wellness is directly tied. So we'll be doing some resources there. So keep an eye open for invites on the webpage. And the thing that I was going to share earlier that did come back into my brain is the overall, and hopefully this is like a good close, we come full circle here, is culture. Culture, someone described it to me once, and I like to keep things simple because then I can remember it and share it with more people, is culture is, what does it feel like to work around here? And so my message to leaders, to heads of HR and heads of the business would be, what is the culture that you had before Corona? How well did it serve you? How did it not serve you? And now, as you're working through Corona, and then picture what it's going to be like in a couple of months, 6 months, a year from now, what is the culture that you need for your people and your business to thrive? And so, do you need to make a culture shift? Do you need to prioritize different leadership capabilities? And how do you set yourself up for success with culture shift and the right leadership capabilities that your people have them, are capable and can lead in that way? And that's, I think, a big way that we help leaders and teams and organizations with organizational development work that we do. We have a ton of organizational development experts. So if you need help there in how to identify and measure your current culture, how to identify and determine the type of culture you need, and how to make the shift, the change management to get there, we would love to partner with you. So any final words from you, Elena?
I just want to comment back to that. I think that's a really powerful statement because, you know, just like everything else we talked about today, culture is going to, change in some capacity with this shift to online for everyone and then the shift back. And I think culture is one of those things that it's probably not on the top of people's radar right now. And, while other things, are very important, I think culture, and thinking about how to maintain it now, but also how to maintain it when you get back, and how to make sure your people feel safe, that psychological safety, the environment of trust. I think that, that is going to be the key player in ensuring all of those things for people from the shift now and then the shift back. And I think that it's something that people probably should start paying more attention to, since it hasn't been the number one thing on everyone's minds right now. So I think it's great that you bring that up and sort of make people more aware of it being important. So I'm glad you
Thank you.
remembered.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a delight. Thank you for doing this with me. And thank you for using your strengths in the interview. And thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you, Jayne.
All right. See you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.